We've got some breaking news. After the Celtics' sudden loss to the Indiana Pacers yesterday, there is a question mark from Champagnie saying, do the Celtics need to make bench additions? And I personally think so. We'll be diving into some bench additions that the Celtics could bring in, possibly at the trade deadline as the rumors start heating up. We'll be breaking down all this and more on this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz. But before we get into any Celtics content, I'd like to say shout out to you guys for getting us to 2,400 subscribers. We're on our goal to get to 3,000 subscribers. And if you guys want to make sure you guys stay up to date on everything Boston Celtics, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join the family. Would greatly appreciate it. But let's dive into the news at hand. So make sure to grab a snack and get ready, as this is going to be a jam-packed episode diving into possible trade candidates for the Boston Celtics. And we'll be looking at possible bench upgrades for this Celtics team. As we've talked about, Derrick White and Jrue Holiday have been terrific for the Boston Celtics at the guard play. Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum are being the two superstar wings, and Kristaps Porzingis filling out that starting five. It is one of the best starting fives in the NBA. When we look at our bench, Sam Hauser has been a great spark plug for this Boston Celtics at the wing, and Al Horford has stepped up tremendously at the big position with Kristaps Porzingis' injuries. Unfortunately, the guard position, Payton Pritchard hasn't been playing the greatest. Ultimately, though, I think he will start turning up and being good for the Boston Celtics. But we're going to be exploring some possible bench upgrades. As you guys see, Champagnie said that he expects the Celtics to be active in the trade market as we get closer to February. Now, this gets kind of tricky for the Boston Celtics, as obviously Jrue Holiday, Jaylen Brown, Jayson Tatum, Derrick White, Kristaps Porzingis, those guys are unmovable, and those guys make a lot of money. The next tradable contract after that is Al Horford, and I deem him as untouchable. He makes around $10 million. He's the only comfortable tradable contract the Celtics have, besides Payton Pritchard. So the only ways that the Celtics can ultimately look at a trade is two ways. They can package Payton Pritchard with guys like Banton, Brissett, and Kornet to go and get one other piece, or they can use the $6.2 million trade player exception that they got from Grant Williams' off-season deal when he signed with the Dallas Mavericks. And ultimately, I think that's the best route. So I brought some players that we're going to be discussing that I possibly think could fit great in with the Boston Celtics. And I want to know your guys' opinions as well on these players fitting into the trade player exception. Do you guys like these players fitting in? And which one would you guys rank the most? Let me know in the comment section down below. So let's get started looking at these players. And the first player we're going to be talking about is a player that I've mentioned recently in a previous video, and that is Jevon Carter. I personally really like Jevon Carter. I think he could be a great ball handler to work alongside Payton Pritchard, and I think they could be working great together. Jevon Carter does what Payton Pritchard does not do. Payton Pritchard is all about shooting. Jevon Carter has a really good jump shot. It has gotten better over the years, but it's not his strong suit. His strong suit is playmaking. His strong suit is defense, and he's going to be doing exactly what the right play is. Kind of similar to a Derrick White role, and I think he would fit in very similar to Derrick White. The only problem is with Jevon Carter coming to the Boston Celtics is he recently is now at home in Chicago, and he's starting for the Chicago Bulls at point guard. So realistically, will he want to leave his hometown and get traded to the Boston Celtics to go win a championship when he already feels comfortable at home having a nice role? Jevon Carter is also on the younger-ish side, so he is able to stick through this Bulls rebuild. He could be a solid merging Bulls point guard that they could have on the low for cheap if they want to keep in the middle of the pack. Jevon Carter is averaging 5.5 points, 0.6 total rebounds, and 1.2 assists on 40% shooting from the field, 36% from 3, and 0% from free throw. And ultimately, I think he would be a great addition for the Boston Celtics. To try to get Jevon Carter, I think the Celtics would only realistically have to give up around 2 second-round picks and the trade player exception, and I think the Chicago Bulls would take that, and I think he would fit greatly alongside Payton Pritchard as a nice guard. But ultimately, I don't know if guard is the best solution for the Boston Celtics. If we want to look at the next player that we can talk about Kenrich Williams from the Oklahoma City Thunder. Now, Kenrich Williams has only played in 9 games for the Oklahoma City Thunder this season, and that is because he was injured at the start of the season. But he's averaging 5.7 points, 3 total rebounds, and 1.8 assists on 54% shooting from the field and 53% shooting from 3, shooting 37% from free throw. Kenrich Williams is an all-around great type of player for the Boston Celtics, and I think would be a nice Swiss Army knife type player at the 4 and the 3 for the Celtics. I think he could rebound, and he could be a great offensive force on the boards, and I think he would be a steal for the Boston Celtics, especially if the Oklahoma City Thunder are trying to make a push to contend in the playoffs. Since the Oklahoma City Thunder have been a dominant team so far this season, the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to have guys that are still young that are going to want playing time, but they're not going to be able to fill that out as they're going to be trying to get other stars and trying to trade off these picks. And a guy like Kenrich Williams has been in the rumors in the last couple of years, and I think possibly this year, since the Oklahoma City Thunder are so talented, they could look to move off of him as he might want to actually get a valuable role in another team. I think Kenrich Williams would be a great fit alongside Sam Hauser and could be a nice offensive rebounding player for the Boston Celtics and could slot nicely at the 3 and 4 and being a good defender for the Celtics as well with Sam Hauser now Horford. And I think he would be a better fit for the Boston Celtics than Jevon Carter, even though I think they both bring similar things to the Boston Celtics. If we want to look at the next player that I want to talk about, I want to talk about another wing, and that is Dean Wade from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Dean Wade's only played in 13 games this season, 3.1 points, 4.1 total rebounds, 0.0 assists, 32% from the field, 31% from 3, and 50% from free throw, and he plays on the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's been on the Cleveland Cavaliers for a while. He's a solid wing for them, but with the Cleveland Cavaliers having a kind of mismatch in the wing position with Isaac Okoro and trying to find out who is their real wing, they got guys like Max Strus, Georges Niang in there. Dean Wade's kind of fallen out of their system, and Dean Wade is kind of just a plug-in piece. I think he could be great for the Boston Celtics, kind of similar of a way compared to Kenrich Williams, where they both can just be a solid rotational wing off the bench to be a nice body to get rebounds and to be making hustle plays for the Boston Celtics. None of these guys like Kenrich Williams and Dean Wade are going to completely change the game of the bench and be an all-out scorer for the Boston Celtics, but they're going to help in needs that the Celtics need in rebounding and boxing out, playing great defense, and helping out the perimeter on the wing, helping guys like Sam Hauser being able to be more of a lethal shooter and actually play out. And even if they want to run a different lineup with Sam Hauser at the 3 and they want to run Horford at the small ball 5 with a nice lineup with Dean Wade and Sam Hauser, they could do that with the bench as well. Kind of a filler for what Brissett and Lamar Stevens were supposed to be, as they haven't really gotten that shine of light so far for the Boston Celtics in the rotation. If we want to keep looking at some other guys, this is the next guy I want to talk about, is a big that the Boston Celtics could bring in, and that's possibly Bismack Biyombo. Bismack Biyombo played 14 games so far for the Grizzlies, as he got picked up a little bit into this season as the Grizzlies had some injuries. But the Grizzlies he's obviously on the Grizzlies, averaging 6.7 points, 7 total rebounds, and 0.2 assists, shooting 58% from the field and 60% from free throw. Bismack Biyombo, obviously the Celtics could have picked up off of waivers and actually brought him into the team, but since he was a little bit older, I don't think the Celtics realistically knew that he was going to be doing that. And then now that he's with the Memphis Grizzlies, he's actually looking like he's a solid backup big and could be a solid piece for this team. I think that the Celtics could actually pursue Bismack Biyombo and go get him as their backup big. You could use the Grant Williams TPE to easily bring him in, and I think he would be a solid addition for this Celtics team as well. The only problem is with the Grizzlies is obviously the Grizzlies are trying to contend, so if they want to keep Bismack Biyombo when they get Ja Morant back and they look to make a move to either go after a nice swing in either OG Anunoby or DeMar DeRozan to try to bolster their playoff chances middle to the late of the season, they might want to keep Bismack Biyombo. But if the Grizzlies are looking to sell at the end of the season, I think Bismack Biyombo will be a serviceable big for the Boston Celtics that they could get that could help out in the rebounding department and the shot blocking department, and he could be a nice backup big compared to the likewise of Luke Kornet. Luke Kornet could be a solid third big for the Boston Celtics as they provide different things for the Celtics team. We want to look at the next player that I want to bring up. I want to bring up another guard, and that is Shake Milton. Shake Milton plays on the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's actually had some solid minutes for the Timberwolves, playing in 19 games, averaging 5.6 points, 1.9 total rebounds, and 1.5 assists, shooting around 36% from the field, 21% from 3, and 80% from free throw. Shake Milton, again, is kind of like a Jevon Carter do-it-all type point guard, would kind of take the playmaking leash off of Payton Pritchard's hands and be more of the playmaker for this bench unit, where Payton Pritchard could be more of a spot-up shooter for this bench unit, which I think would actually be a better role for Payton Pritchard, coming off the ball and actually just shooting, and playmaking off the ball, whereas Shake Milton can be the primary ball handler for this bench unit and actually controlling the pace and actually being a solid defender for the Celtics. The only problem with the Shake Milton deal is the Minnesota Timberwolves are a solid team in the Western Conference, so I don't know if they would realistically give up Shake Milton at this point. They have guys like Nickeil Alexander-Walker, they have guys in D'Angelo Russell, they have Mike Conley, they also have guys in Anthony Edwards, so they have some guards, and Shake Milton is a good one. Maybe if they wanted to get some draft capital, if they start to fall off, if they get some injuries, or if they realize that they could actually get by not having Shake Milton in their lineup, and they can want to get some draft capital after trading for Rudy Gobert, maybe they could get some second-round picks for Shake Milton from the Boston Celtics. But ultimately, I don't know if that's the best deal, but I think he would still be a great fit alongside the Celtics team. And lastly, the last guy I want to talk about is Torrey Craig, another wing from the Chicago Bulls. Hasn't been the greatest for the Chicago Bulls, but he, I think, could be very similar to a guy like Kenrich Williams and Dean Wade. I think he could be he's a little bit better of a scorer than those guys, but I still think he could be a solid vet wing for this bench unit, and he could also provide some great rebounding and scoring for this bench unit. Some other guys that we want to mention as well is Andre Drummond. I know a lot of Celtics fans in the comments and a lot of my friends as well have talked to me about the Celtics acquiring Andre Drummond. I would really like for the Celtics to go after Andre Drummond too. I think they could get him easily for the TPE, and I think he'd be a great rebounding big for the Celtics team. Not the greatest on defense as we saw when he played against the Boston Celtics, but I still think he could hold his own with the Celtics team in a limited role, and I still think he could be a solid backup center. So out of all the guys that we broke down today, we talked about Javon Carter, we talked about Kenrick Williams, we talked about Dean Wade, we talked about Bismack Biyombo, we talked about Shake Milton, we talked about Torrey Craig, and we talked about Andre Drummond. Let me know your guys' rankings of those guys in the comment section down below. Who would you guys like the Celtics to see and go after? Ultimately, all these trades are going to be with the TPE, so the Celtics would be trading the TPE with either a first or a couple seconds to get off of the traded player exception to get said player. This said player would fill in for the Boston Celtics on their last roster spot. It would be a key addition for this bench unit to help out either in the backcourt, the front court, or at the wing position, wherever you guys think the Celtics need the most. Try to provide the most spread out of all three positions and guys that could fit and help out with the Boston Celtics. So if you think that the Celtics need a front court piece or a back court piece, your situation was satisfied. But let me know if any of these guys you think would fit perfectly on the Boston Celtics, or ranking wise, which ones you would like to see the Boston Celtics go after and get. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.